How's everybody doing? This is an exciting day. I want to wake you guys up a little bit. I know we had lunch, then we had yachts. Of course, that's huge, and then we're following that up. I think this panel is going to be just as exciting as anything you've seen today. We have an exciting group of panelists. I want to first start by saying how excited I am to be here in RAK. Before today, I called this place a vacation home because we spent many of our family vacations here, and now I'm more excited than ever to see them moving in the crypto space. So we'll get a little bit of an opportunity to talk about that. I want to do some quick introductions to our panel, because this is not only a STEAM panel, but it's a panel with some interesting things that you guys have probably not ever heard about or seen in their portfolios. So we'll start with Vlad here. Vlad, one of the things nobody probably knows about Vlad is that he knew Vitalik Buterin when Vitalik was 5 years old, right? He's known him since he was 5 years old, and he was one of the original board members on the Ethereum Foundation board, right? That's huge. That means he's a complete OG, and anything he says is probably true in the space. Benjamin, despite being a AAA game developer and developing some games like Assassin's Creed, Life Beyond, he was a French Navy pilot candidate. How freaking cool is that? That's pretty cool to go from that to this.
It would have been more cool if I had been selected all the way to the end of the program, but it's more of a failure, but it could have been really much more fun.
Yeah, but these failures obviously build you to the next steps. I myself was a former U.S. Marine for 5 years, so that kind of led me in the discipline and the field and everything else to eventually get into TradeFi and get into this space. So it's okay, but that's a wild story to tell your friends, and I'm glad everybody else gets to hear it. And Luis, although being the youngest on the panel, at least by looks, I would assume you are the youngest on the panel. He's an OG in the space when it comes to Dogecoin was his first coin. He's a Call of Duty OG. So these are big things, and we'll talk a little bit about those connections as we go through the panel. So I want to start with Vlad.
I might ask you to.
Vlad, you're part of the World State Project.
So sorry.
And I want you to tell us a little bit how the World State Project views and shapes the world of blockchain, the world of democracy in the metaverse. Tell us a little bit about how you view that and how your organization views that.
Here we go.
Thank you very much for this event. Okay. And look,
so we're here now.
Decentralized world is created, funded, and used by a specific type of people, or people with specific mindset.
Perfect.
Basically, we talk about people who believes that if the world is not co-created by them, this is not the future they want to be in. And that brings the agenda of self-governance, decentralized organizations very relevant. So that means that those people, they would like to have a full transparency about certain rules, how their digital assets managed, how they secured, is any restrictions to move these assets here and there, sell them or lease them or do something they want to do. Is any way that some centralized organization or somebody can diminish the value of these assets. So that means that decentralized nature of governance of anything is there on a DNA level. So, and that was from the beginning of blockchain. But there was a lot of theoretical and philosophical discussions and things here and there, and the most well-known thing is a network state. But there was not really truly decentralized platform where people who want to create decentralized organization or decentralized community or network states would be able to do with a few clicks, where like legal-like of constructor. And the world state is a kind of platform, truly web-free platform, which helps anybody who wants to create their decentralized, political party or virtual state or community, do it within a few minutes or seconds, right? So we created a kind of platform to enable this movement, this desire to be truly self-governed. So from my perspective, in a very nice way. This is why the world state is, from my perspective, quite a relevant project for the whole industry.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about specifically metaverse and how metaverse ties into that. And we'll go to Luis first and then hit with follow up with Benjamin. Luis, how do you see the metaverse and gaming tying into this concept of democratization, of a truly decentralized world for people getting into this space?
Yeah, so I think what comes very close to widely adopted metaverse today is what Epic Games is trying to do with Fortnite, which is by far, to me, the virtual worlds with the most amount of people. And today, Epic Games, one of the major gaming publishers, is enabling game developers to build on top of this world. And obviously, hundreds of millions of people are playing Fortnite. And when you look at the game mechanics of a metaverse and of a game, Fortnite being the prime example, in my opinion, it's just very close. And then you have this concept when you delve deeper into the metaverse of digital identity. So the promise is that you would, whatever you do in the world A could also be applied to the world B. So that means if you're a very loyal Fortnite player, then potentially in one of the organizations of the world state, you would be able to carry over your data. So when we talk about democratization of the metaverse, you have to think of who today has the biggest distribution. And distribution comes from gaming today, that we have about 4 billion people that play games, and then potentially bring digital identity to carry over the experience from one world to the other.
Great. So, Benjamin, to hit on that, to keep following that kind of narrative, I'm a huge fan of Fortnite, Unreal Engines, as you're a part of as well, or we're a part of. Tell us how you think specifically gaming has a responsibility, or at least a role, in growing the mass adoption of this concept of decentralization, of the typically non-crypto native people getting involved in this space.
I think the thing with any technology is that the technology is a commodity, and no one really cares, especially users, about the technology for itself, unless you're just super geeky and all you enjoy is just to dig deeper into any form of new technology. So the question is really about the use case. And gaming is obviously a fantastic gateway to onboard anyone to any new type of concept, any new type of technology. The problem so far is the lack of meaningful and qualitative experiences in the Web3 space in general, and this is really what I think is coming up, not so much because of a lack of good developers, but because the pace of development of gaming and the pace of the Web3 world are very different. The blockchain development has gone very fast, and usually Web3 communities are expecting things to come up exactly at the same speed. So they expect things to be released every month. To give you an idea, when we start working on new IPs at Ubisoft, let's say one like The Division, and it's not specifically the numbers of The Division that we'll give, but these things take between 5 to 8 years to build. When you work on a sequel of a game like Assassin's Creed, it can take 3 to 5 years. So imagine, when we talk about Web3, what this means. If we consider that, just let's go back in 2017. 2017 Ethereum is like CryptoKitties time when no one, it's a very small community. So we need a little bit more time to get to this level of quality that will drive the mass adoption.
Got it.
Can I add a couple
Yeah,
comments?
go ahead, please.
Look, 2 comments. One is about metaverse. Metaverse could be centralized, could be decentralized. We talk about decentralized metaverse because I believe this is the future. Metaverse is a virtual world, and if the certain rules, algorithm, and protocols, and overall the rules of this virtual world metaverse created not by community of users, That can be extremely powerful manipulation of people's minds, right? The same like artificial intelligence, which was discussed today, this morning. So decentralized metaverse, it kind of eliminates this manipulation because like 80% of community users, actual users of this metaverse, they have full transparency about, algorithms and rules, and they have influence that the rules can be changed only when majority of users agree to change it.
Right.
This is extremely powerful. This is about democracy in the metaverse. If it comes to decentralized games, by the way, similar things happens there, but what is important for decentralized games that within these games, I create value by playing games. And this value can go up because these digital assets I obtain or develop or upgrade has a certain value. In addition that I can move this value and these assets without any restrictions anywhere I want and convert to real fiat currency or convert to something tangible should not be restricted. And as a user having decentralized nature of these games, I have full transparency. There is no restrictions. And it's about trust. I trust this game that nobody will either diminish or devalue my assets without my permission or permission of majority of the user, or nobody can restrict to move these assets and convert. I have full control of these assets. This is two examples which, from my perspective, illustrate why this self-governance democracy, direct democracy enabled by blockchain would be extremely beneficial for everybody.
Great point. And I think if we look at the way centralized gaming platforms are built, they could essentially be a gateway into decentralized platforms and do it seamlessly because they have already built up the user base, they've already built up the kind of community, they just have to change some of the rules.
And this is what we see in the industry, a lot of decentralized game developers moving and integrating, moving to integrating decentralized kind of mechanics.
Louis, next question for you. So we talked a little bit about democracy, kind of governance a little bit, but could you hit on how that's going to work in the next generation of gaming if we're talking about bringing over centralized players, mass adoption players into this decentralized world? How do we get them into an environment where they're comfortable with governance, with a democratized kind of atmosphere, voting, things of that nature? How do we do that without putting off the next generation of players?
Yeah, so first, I think it's a multi-step process. First is I would not go the full route of custodial wallets, and because it's quite cumbersome today. So potentially, if we think of Epic today, they could integrate as a first step custodial wallets directly embedded within the game, and that's your first step towards eventually owning assets. And then once they feel comfortable with digital assets, and then they want to take control over those assets, then you can typically give them the choice of having a non-custodial wallet where they effectively have ownership over what they do, and progressively add components of governance. And when we think of governance today, in crypto overall and in protocols, it's mainly guided by who has the most money. Like concretely, if you vote on Maker or on Aave, it's the number of tokens you have, right? But for gaming, I think it has to be different. It has to be about what you do in-game, and what Epic could, for example, say is, okay, we see that you're a top 10% on Fortnite. Because you're top 10% of player of Fortnite, you will have a governance right over the potential esports aspect of Fortnite, because they are qualified. So if you introduce in-game some aspects of governance, then people just get used to it.
I love that. So like play to governance instead of pay to play, or play to pay.
You have like
play to governance.
You have soulbound tokens today, and it takes away the all of the financial aspects of governance. You obviously have other methods like quadratic voting, meaning that it's not the whales that control the votes, and that's actually super important for decentralized metaverse.
So Benjamin, did you want to hit on this point? Because I got a question for
because
you
I
as
think
well.
it's a very interesting point that is, especially we've had several experimentation already in the traditional gaming world with this. League of Legends has a justice system that is powered by the community, and I know you work for a company that does customer support and community management, so I'm sure you've heard a lot about this. There are, of course, also companies that are really trying to involve their community of players in the definition of the upcoming roadmap and the upcoming features. But they were always kind of lacking of a true governance system, with a way to really kind of give the proper level of commitment, to reward the level of commitment by having more of a say as a community member, which is of course one of the opportunity coming either with your holding of NFTs or with the holding or the staking of a governance token. So blockchain really opens a wide range of opportunities here to really work with the community as a stakeholder of the value chain, and completely redefines also this value chain, because now everyone, not just the developer, not just the publisher, everyone is a stakeholder, and this is when we start having this concept of network effect that kicks in.
That's great. So it brings us to my next question, specifically to you about the Metaverse Network token and how the emergence of Bitcoin ordinals could be a possibility to shape rewarding and utility within the metaverse, within gaming. So could you tell us a little bit about that and how that works?
Yeah, it's a fantastic topic for all of us today, because obviously we all see Bitcoin as the prestige chain and the best settlement layer for this very valuable digital asset, which is Bitcoin, which is digital gold. But since February and the launch of the Ordinals protocol, we can now use Bitcoin for utility. So we can now run applications, we can have NFTs or a form of NFTs running on Bitcoin, which also totally opens the opportunity to now run a true open metaverse on Bitcoin as well. And so that's our intention with the upcoming Metaverse BRC20 token that we will be launching in the next few months, which is really to create the Bitcoin chapter of the open metaverse. And it's not related to a single game, to a single virtual world. It's more really a tool to power a network of stakeholders that can be technology providers, that can be content creators, guilds, brands, of course, experienced developers as well, that are finally connected and absolutely rewarded with the network effect that they're participating to build through this fungible token.
Great. So I now have one major question that's designed for each of you. So I'm going to start with Vlad. Earlier we talked about this, and I think it's an extremely interesting topic, and it's the fact of, is it possible for the metaverse to be combined with real world? Can we eventually get to a point where we have what was originally designed and thought of as a potential for utopian society? A, is it possible? B, how does it look? And C, any thoughts on how you think we can get there?
That's a very good and pretty tough question to answer. So let me make a try. Look, eventually, I think humans who is living on this planet, eventually will come to this point where the governance will be very flat. There will be extremely big influence of community on the rules, not only in the digital society, but also in a kind of real world. But it will not it will not happen relatively fast. It will be evolution. First, we will see a substantial growth of all kind of digital and decentralized communities. Decentralized social media, decentralized states, decentralized anything in terms of like how people come together based on a certain values, interests, etc., etc. So, and there is so I give you a few examples. First of all, there is a big, powerful type of people called digital nomads. People who are wealthy, they quite often in the high tech, they use technology quite a lot, and they do not associate themselves with a specific country or territory. They consider themselves as citizens of the world. And the number of these people growing exponentially. And they have a brain power and they have financial power. And they have a specific mindset I mentioned earlier about. They will be the main driving force to see this happening in the digital world. But then the real world, the real governments of different countries, they are extremely interested somehow get these people and working to make lives of citizens of this specific country better. So because these people usually create the highest possible value. So there are several integrating points where the real governments will talk to the network states. For example, if digital community have a kind of social rating, but decentralized social rating, which is given by community, let's call it NFT passport. And we know this particular person, we know about he's respected guy, he's behaving like that, this is his values, this is his traction of financial records, etc. He's an extremely good guy. Any governments would like this guy involved in the kind of local, like this free zone. This free zone most likely would like to attract, right, people. So they can integrate, build certain kind of bridge between network state, digital network state, and real state. And we will see more and more. But of course, this is much more fundamental change of the whole political system in most of the countries. And this will be evolution. First, we'll see a real world traction in digital world, when we'll see second phase integration of real governments with network states, and then maybe more and more kind of elements of these self-governance we'll see in the real world. By the way, first countries which will adopt it will be relatively small countries, which is open to experiment. And the first user case probably will be overall election, where we delegate rights to vote for, to make a decision for us, not to the parliament members for 4, 5, 6 years, but some friends who is experts. For example, I have two options: either to participate in real time decision making of my network state, or I delegate, for example, to Benjamin to make a certain decision on my behalf. But it happens in real time. If Benjamin, for example, despite the fact we are friends and we are on the same page, suddenly vote for the budget allocation, not the way I would do, I can say, excuse me, my friend, I call off these rights, or I even stop this vote. And this is going to happen soon enough in small countries who want to experiment with decentralized governors. And there are several governors, like in Florida, in a few small countries, in Barbados, who are interested and ready to experiment this type of pilot projects.
Interesting. So some of the things you said seem like they could be done in the short term, but most of it's evolutionary, long term. I think some of it challenges the preconceived notion of anonymity inside of this space, right? Because some of the times when you get involved in voting processes and things like that, your background, things like that, information that you can see, there is some acceptance that anonymity is not always going to play a role, right? Or cannot be completely upheld. It's very interesting.
And this is not straightforward. This is not like I have a token and rights to vote. I have one vote, and everybody has an equal vote. There will be a much more complicated system, like based on my commitments, time I spend, assets I take, etc., how respected I am as a citizen, etc. I mean, this type of thing. But it's coming. It's already proved in several projects in a digital world.
So my next question is to you, Louis. So we've talked about governance, we've talked about the utopian world inside the metaverse and the future of the metaverse. What I really want to hit on is the next generation of taking gaming to that next level. And your generation is obviously going to be the ones leading the charge. You're leading the charge, and you're in Xborg. This is like the next generation of gaming development. How do you see onboarding the next, let's say, billion users into decentralized gaming, or into the metaverse gaming platforms on the decentralized level? How do we get that next billion users?
Yeah, I think one point that not a lot of people mention is regulation of decentralized spaces. And when we talk to Epic or Valve or Riot, they would first tell you they can't get into the space because it's not regulated. In France, for example, you have the Sora law, I think, like the trading card game, and they are trying to ban to some degree some Web3 games. And that means to get to actual games, to like a decentralized metaverse, regulation needs to be there. Also, tech-wise, we need to understand we haven't solved some technical challenges as far as concurrent players are concerned within a full-blown metaverse. So I think these are prerequisites that will enable us to take gamers from just gaming to then the metaverse.
This is a great point. It's kind of the reason why we're here, right? RAK DAO will be the avenue for DAOs to get regulated, to be able to have that trust factor to bring in new users and really kind of operate in a regulated environment. So Benjamin, I'm a player, not a gamer. I think there's a distinction between the two things. A gamer has time to grind.
Are you addicted?
A player just plays casually, right? That's how I kind of see it. Can decentralized gaming be just as fun, high-powered, cool as current gaming? Can we hit the platforms and not just PC? I want to hear your thoughts on, is it possible to build decentralized gaming, and will it happen that's just as good as today's game?
It's a very easy one. For one reason, which is, I mean, there are still games. Like when we build a Web3 game, we're not really redesigning or changing the design process. We're still building a game for fun. I think the problem is just the prejudice that the industry has right now because of the play-to-earn games, which were designed differently with a different type of incentive program, incentive mechanism. When we built Life Beyond, for instance, it's built by a team coming from Ubisoft, Microsoft, Take-Two. These guys are just making another game with exactly the same recipe. There's one big difference, and especially I think it's very valuable for the casual players, which is that you own your asset because they are run on-chain. So that brings two things. The blockchain native part of the experience. The first one is that while before you always think twice before spending money because you know that once you've spent it, it's gone. It's over there. You bought an asset, you bought a skin in Fortnite, or you bought these gems in Candy Crush. You can never recover this investment. It's actually not an investment, it's an expense. With Web3 gaming, there can be an opportunity. You might just dispose it, sell it at a lower price, or you might eventually even earn some money, like an upside from it, because of the scarcity nature of a lot of digital assets on the blockchain. So that's one thing. The second thing, which I find extremely interesting, is that because by nature the assets are living on-chain, it also gives an absolute way, in an absolute permissionless way, to any other third party to build additional services or experiences on top of it. So now, you're not the only one running on the content treadmill. Like we have all been doing this as online game developer, whether it was social game, mobile game, online game, PC game. Eventually you run out of content, and that's always a problem. But this time, you have the whole world is available, especially if your game is successful and your community is engaged, to participate in a complete permissionless way. No one needs to reach out to you as the developer. The assets are on-chain. People can just keep building on top of it.
Thank you
So
very much.
to me, Web3 gaming is just gaming, but better. There's nothing that really should come as a major narrative disruption in it. It's just an improvement.
I totally agree with you. And I'm a big fan of, I was originally Fortnite. Now my son plays Fortnite. one of the top players in his region, and he's got a huge library with lots and lots of skins and everything else. And on the black market, he could sell those for like 10K or something like that.
And you're right to mention the black market. So that's actually something that, of course, was a big inspiration back then on World of Warcraft. We know, for instance, that on World of Warcraft you could buy gold, you could pay for power leveling services, but all of this was happening on black markets. Right. We estimated that it was worth $1 billion in revenues per year. So it shows you the scale of it on just one single game. So this mechanic has always been there, but of course it came with a lot of obstacles. While now it can be regulated, it can be legal, and it can also create a lot of business opportunities for entrepreneurs to create these additional services.
I totally agree, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on like 2K, NBA 2K, Madden, FIFA, all these other games, because like when you play the online versions of it, and you're playing these My Teams and Foot and all this stuff, you really spend a lot of time, but you get nothing out of it, and it's all black market run. Okay, we've got 5 minutes. We're going to close with this, a lightning round of questions. I'm gonna start with you, Benjamin, because we've done you last up until this point. Okay, the biggest trend you're going to see in Web3 gaming in the next 1 to 2 years. We're going to put a window on it. Biggest trend.
Obviously, I think Bitcoin and ordinals are going to drive an insane amount of attention for one reason, which is you have the largest liquidity, $600 billion. You have the largest number of users, 44 non-zero wallets. That are completely untapped today. So as a developer, if the technology is not the barrier anymore, there's very little good reasons not to go on Bitcoin.
Got it. Bitcoin ordinals. Vlad, same question.
Well, decentralized gaming by itself is a big trend, but within this, I think user interface and user experience will be AAA great as we currently see in most of the games within decentralized, the speed and the overall experience. So as soon as we nail it, this is going to be huge.
Great. User experience, which I'm glad to hear, because one of the things that is a drawback, I believe, in the metaverse and Web3 gaming experience is user interface. Discord as a main channel for communication, it's a nightmare. I mean, it's just
and minor comments is when people come to decentralized games, not to be rewarded as a first reason, but just to play and experience the game, and they get these rewards additional for the time they spend as an extra bonus.
Exactly. Luis?
It's going to be quite specific, but it's the alpha. No, it's hyper-casual mobile games out of Asia. Asia is a much bigger market than the rest of the world as far as gaming is concerned. In Web3 and regulation, they've made some amazing moves recently, and I don't think we're anywhere near AAA type of game adoption. I think adoption will come from mobile games, and so hyper-casual mobile games in Asia is going to be a big one.
I actually really agree with you, and we all know that mobile gaming's microtransaction amounts are top in any gaming industry, so they lead the world in gaming industry. All right, thank you guys very much. Please give these guys a round of applause. And thank you, everyone.